The year is 2009. EA has just shut down another studio, but the studio would have one last hurrah before they were all given the sack. The release of their new game, The Saboteur. This game is about an Irishman in German-occupied France during early World War II who wears a tasteful tan-coloured bum bag so every woman within a 5-mile radius would flock to him. If you didn't know the main protagonist was Irish by his accent, shite! Well, don't worry. The devs spoon-feed it to you by giving him green eyes, a flat cap, and a drinking problem. Something every Irishman is required to have by the age of 5. It's our job to fight back and start a resistance against the Germans, because we all know the French government has an itchy trigger finger when it comes to surrendering early. This is the story of how a humble Irish mechanic became a World War II hero through the beautiful power of war crimes. This video is sponsored by Hero Wars, which you can see me playing now. I will use the ad money to invest in— What are you doing in my video? Get back to where you came from.
Hey, what about my world?
What's wrong with it? Are you from some sort of childish game?
That is not true. Hero Wars has vibrant graphics, cool gameplay, and a user-friendly interface.
Alright then, let's give it a try, boys.
Yeah, tell them more about it.
In Hero Wars, everyone can find a character to suit themselves. They have cyborgs, aliens, vampires, even furries won't be disappointed. I've been playing for 2 weeks now, but I've only unlocked a third. I'll unlock Chubba next. He's an awesome tank who literally devours his enemies. But Celeste is the real S tier. She can switch between a DPS dark form and a healer light form, which makes her useful in any situation. Besides, check out this sick new outfit that just dropped for her. There's no equal to Hero Wars. You're gonna play it on the subway, at lectures, or while playing something else. It's very easy to start playing, but assembling a perfect team of heroes is an art in itself. For example, Mojo the Shaman can't heal Darkstar the Elf as efficiently as the good Grandma Martha can, while the Slow Cleaver makes a great pair with the Swift Isaac. Hero Wars is a world of 6 unique modes, more than 300 Guild Wars servers, and 100 million players. You can play alone, or see who among your friends is the top dog. Where can you get 30,000 coins, 600 emeralds, and 5 awesome heroes to start dominating Hero Wars? The answer is the link in the description. Play Hero Wars now. The game begins in the best way possible, with boobs. Genuinely, it's the first scene in the game. Pandemic really put their best foot forward here. We're having whiskey at the bar while watching some respectable young women dance for German soldiers while wearing limited clothing. Some could judge these women for their actions, but I mean, it's the 40s. What else was a woman supposed to do? Vote? A Frenchman then comes over to us and starts aggressively shouting at us to stand up and fight the Germans to protect France, and we're like, yeah alright big man, no worries, let's go commit some war crimes. Before leaving the bar however, I go to have a little dance on the pole to show that these Irish hips don't lie, but German soldiers just begin booing me. Wow, you can take our homes, our freedom, and put us in gas chambers. But to shatter a man's self-confidence like that, in front of a bar full of people, is crossing a moral line. Outside, I come across 2 homeless men attempting to warm up around the fire, but that's not how you start a revolution. In hopes of inspiring the people, I run over his mate, but to my surprise, he doesn't even move. This man's hands aren't the only thing that are ice cold. He just watched his friend's vertebrae get shattered on my bonnet and didn't even flinch. I meet the French lad from earlier around the back of an alley, expecting an over-the-trousers rim job, but no, he just wants me to take out some Germans with him. It's a shame, as French men in dark alleyways give the best rim jobs. I assume. We take a little drive to the local supply depot, and you may be wondering why everything is in black and white. Well, it's because the Germans actually put a filter on real life, so no one could see colour anymore. All of that real footage you see from World War II isn't black and white because the cameras lacked colour grading. It's because the big moustache man was trying to make us all colourblind in an attempt to end racism. His motivations during World War II were actually heavily misunderstood. Our new friend Luke is angered when he sees one of the soldiers backhand a woman like he was competing in a Grand Slam final. He hops out the car filled with rage, and while I admire his confidence in his hand-to-hand combat skills, I go for the tactical approach of using my car as it worked so well earlier with the homeless guy. As I hop out of the whip, I pat myself on the back for taking care of those Germans, but it would appear the woman who Luke got out of the car to defend was caught in my crossfire. Unfortunate. When the game introduces climbing up buildings, I realise the Saboteur is not just a good game, it's a good Assassin's Creed game. Feeling way too confident that I was playing Assassin's Creed, I took a leap of faith off the top of the building hoping for an air assassination, but all I got in return was severe knee ligament damage. We pick up some dynamite, head over to the German camp where Luke devises a tactical masterclass for us to get inside.
The Nazis are trained to investigate the sound of gunshots or an explosion.
So Luke sets off some dynamite to distract the guards while we zipline in using our bare hands? I hope my guy Sean carries round some Nivea moisturiser with him, because that cannot be good for his palms. So with our hands burning, red raw from that zipline, we plant the explosives and bring colour back to this part of the map. We hop in one of the German vehicles for the journey back, and wow, you instantly notice the stark difference between German engineering and anything else. This baby drives like a dream. If Germany had won World War II? Sorry, spoilers, I guess they didn't. One of the benefits would have been everyone driving German cars right now. Back at the bar, I go to my super secret cool back room, which I don't have to pay any rent on. Every woman fantasizes about a man taking them back to a hidden back room at a bar to play the African drums for her. So we hit the sack and get a flashback to 3 months ago, just before the war officially started. We're joined by our best friend Jules, his sister Veronique, who Sean wants to smash,
Morning, beautiful.
and an older Italian dude named Vittori, who says old games aren't diverse enough. Just look at all these white people from different countries. Everyone's ready to head to the race, but first I take a little walk around the farm. It's got everything you'd expect, like chickens, a cute old farmhouse, and cows that explode from the inside out when you punch them a few times. Cows in France are clearly just very fragile, but that would make sense, as the French people are also very fragile. Just look at how quickly they raise the white flag. We make our way to the race, eventually passing the border into Germany, where I'm sure the cows are way tougher. With the car parked up at the event, we all head down to grab a beer, as that seems like a really smart idea in a country where war is brewing, ready to break out at literally any moment now. Before we can even sink a few beers, however, our arch nemesis, Dirk, turns up wearing his tight leather racing overalls, so we can see how big his muscles are and small his cock is. Once again, the game would drop some subtle hints that he isn't to be trusted, giving him blonde hair and blue eyes. A fight ends up breaking out between our crews, and it hits me. This part of the game is actually kind of like a mature version of the Disney movie Cars. Leave a like if you want to see me play the Cars game. That slaps. After throwing hands for a while, I go to the top floor in an attempt to summon my inner Jeff Hardy and wipe out the Germans with a clean swanton bomb. Unfortunately, Sean is not athletic enough to achieve this, and German soldiers end up rocking up, shooting up the entire bar. Second time round, we escape and run into Skyler, a British woman who Sean has some history with. We take the wheel from her, as we wouldn't want her to get in trouble for driving, and escape the Germans. Back at the hotel room, we discover the devs were indeed based, as they gave Skyler jiggle physics.
Single malt McGarren.
We then raw dog that, as before Fast and Furious come out, most race car drivers were actually heterosexual. Feeling good in our tight leathers the next day, we make our way to the racetrack and get set to take down Doc Hudson. Sean has to start in last place, which seems moderately racist, but it's okay, because I played an awful lot of Need for Speed Underground as a kid, so racing games are in my DNA. After some hard work holding down the trigger, I get into second, but my arch rival is so far out in first place, I'm beginning to think his car is on steroids. However, rubber banding would be on my side, as it majorly slows him down on the final lap and we begin to take over. Once we shift into first place, however, the big German unit shoots out our tyre, forcing us to crash and giving himself the dub. Why is the trophy that he won for this small local race so unnecessarily large? It's like at least the same size as the 10-year-old Lithuanian child in my basement. Me and my bestie Jules want to get revenge on Dirk for what he did, so we stealthily tail him in a bright blue car with no roof or tinted windows so you can see exactly who we are. As it would turn out, his home is not a quaint countryside house, it's actually a heavily guarded, gigantic SS facility, so that's not suspicious at all. We break in by climbing over a small fence, but Jules needs a boost.
Give me a boost.
I'm sorry, but a full-grown man needing a leg up to get over a 10-foot fence is the biggest turn-off ever. Like, bro, if you're not at least 6 foot tall, just grow up. What are you doing all the way down there? We find Dirk's car and drive it into a river, but are instantly greeted by the hottest Nazi you've ever seen. I'd dye my hair blonde and wear blue contact lenses just to get a sniff of her used toothbrush. We get taken away and wake up being tortured, but unfortunately not by the hot spandex woman, instead by Dirk. Turns out the racing thing is just kind of a side hobby for him, which is depressing because racing is our everything and he's still better than us. Anyway, the big German man thinks we're working with the British intelligence and we're here to spy on him. He doesn't buy anything we're saying and ends up killing our bestie Jules. An extremely sad time, but on the bright side, his sister will need someone to comfort her from the tragic loss of her brother and will be right there. I'm not saying the death of your best friend is the ideal time to sleep with his sister, but it's probably the most opportune time. In a rage from losing Jules, we break free and work our way through that German factory, taking out every soldier we come across. Please don't question how an untrained Irishman with no previous gun experience can control the recoil on a fully auto assault rifle. Okay, there's absolutely no plot holes here. Escaping the facility, we hop into a truck in hopes of making our way back to France. You know your current situation isn't looking too good if you want to willingly go to France. When we arrive in the land where rats are chefs, things aren't looking too hot here either, as the Germans have invaded. Back at the farm, I arrive just in time to save Vittori. But Veronique is in danger as well. However, we know exactly how to save a damsel in distress by blowing up a gas tank about 8 feet from where she's sitting, giving her second-degree burns and singeing off her eyebrow hairs. We deliver the devastating news that Jules is no longer with us, and then head west to safety where we arrive at the bar. This place is actually owned by Jules and Veronique's parents, where I meet them for the first time. I find myself thinking that Jules may have actually been lucky to die in his 30s, as he'll never age to look anything like his dad. Anyway, back in the present day, our French mate Luke tells us we need to break Vittori out of a camp nearby, but before he can finish, Veronique comes over and seems very taken by Luke. Apparently he was some famous author before the war started, so yeah, he may be rich, famous and handsome, but I've been off my antidepressants for 3 weeks now, and no longer give myself a round of applause after we have sex. So you ask yourself, who's the more desirable man? So Luke teaches me all about using disguises to get me into places undetected. It's basically the same as Hitman, where you knock someone out, sleep with them while they're unconscious, and then slip into their clothes. Wow. How come back in the 40s wearing an SS uniform was seen as a clever disguise, but when I wore one to National History Day at school, I was immediately sent home and suspended? Of course the plan for stealth goes tits up, because when it comes to stealth segments in video games, I'm no Bill Cosby. When I root for you, you'll know it. I saved Vittori and some other prisoners too, but one of them was actually a priest, and statistically, 72% of priests have touched a child. So I take my chances and discharge a full mag into his back. To my surprise, he tanks all of the bullets, so I let him live, because if you can take that many bullets at his fragile age, you can touch whoever you like. With the whole crew back together, it was really time to get serious and begin La Révolution to take back France. Now just kidding, Luke got shot, so now we have to go on a mission to get some antibiotics. I could be out there, in the streets, saving France and its people right now. But no, instead I'm picking up a 1-week prescription for a course of penicillin. I also have to steal a fancy car from one of the Germans, so the game can unlock the garage feature for me, but not actually let me keep this really nice car. When I arrive at the base camp, there's soldiers going through target practice. They're really shooting shotguns loaded with buckshot from 25 feet away. Did they never play Battlefield 3? Everyone knows using slug rounds and an 8x scope is much more suited for long to medium range with a shotgun. I believe that it's small mistakes like this that ended up costing them the war. I steal the car and then pull off this super stealthy maneuver where I take a leak about 10 feet away from the place where I stole the car and suddenly lose all my heat. Assassin's Creed who? It all seems fine and dandy, but when I get back to the bunker, I couldn't have prepared myself for what I was about to see. Luke, attempting to make a move on Veronique. Just look at how quickly he stands up when I arrive. You know this man's guilty. The lit candles, the table against the wall, the fresh cotton bed sheets, and the lavender flavour condoms on the table. I know this seduction tactic all too well myself, Luke. Speaking of Veronique, we've got to take her to drop off some bits and bobs to a local store, so we have a drive together, and she doesn't even gently hold my thigh while I drive. I miss Jules so much. However, it turns out Veronique wasn't just returning some overdue books to the library, she was actually pulling a Walter White, proving she is the one who knocks. Honestly, I wish I was the one who was knocking right now, because look at that wagon. Pixelated booties from 2009 video games are just my weakness. Speaking of my weakness, a poor lad delivers me a handwritten message from the spicy British blonde lass from earlier, Skyler. This is basically the 40s equivalent of a girl texting you that her parents aren't home. I had no car, as I literally just crashed it into a ravine 2 minutes beforehand, but that wasn't going to stop me, as I sprinted to her house. My shoes lacking the proper sole support needed for this kind of run put my feet in terrible shape, and once again I find myself missing Jules, as he'd often rub my feet while we sniffed red wine and smoked frogs. or whatever it is that French people do for fun. Being down astronomically for Skyler, we arrive in quick time and get to sipping whiskey. It would turn out, however, she slipped a cheeky roofie into our drink, and honestly, if anyone is going to take advantage of us, I'm happy with it being Skyler. Could you even complain if a 10 out of 10 pixelated blonde violated you? I feel like if I took legal action, the entire courtroom would just stand up and give me a round of applause when I got up on the stand to explain my story for actually managing to pull her. When we wake up, I'm unfortunately fully clothed, my arse is not sore, and there's a British man talking to me. As it turns out, Skyler is actually working for the undercover British intelligence, and they need my help. Don't know why she had to roofie me to do this, she could have just asked me, but yeah, basically, we've got to steal a chest the Germans found underground. It's top secret, so we cannot peek inside, and if we do this, no questions asked, they'll tell us where Dirka is. We agree to the terms and conditions and meet Skyler just outside of the location, where she tells me I can enter through an underground tunnel, avoiding all of the guards. I completely misunderstand what she said, slip into an underground tunnel that actually just takes me further away from where I need to be, and then engage in a gunfight with 20 heavily armed Germans. 200 IQ from me right here. On the bright side, however, the Germans now call me the Saboteur when we fight, so it's nice to see the nickname our request Skyler uses for me in the bedroom is working its way from the sheets to the streets. We find the chest underground and do the classic Pulp Fiction gold light, but never actually show anyone what's in there.
Some questions are better left unanswered. If you're as clever as I hope, you'll forget all about what you've seen here today and never speak of it again.
Forget about what? I didn't see a damn thing.
Good.
Me and Skyler secure the chest in a sports car, but Jesus, I'm not sure this is actually road safe. It could fly out at any moment. As we make it all the way back to the British dudes, they tell us Dirka is about to board a Zeppelin and head to Berlin. But before we leave, I first pull a little social experiment and see if the game lets me abuse Skyler outside of the bedroom by running her over. The answer is yes, and I can honestly say I've never seen someone get run over and stiffen out like an ironing board before. That was genuinely impressive. To everyone's surprise, I stealth this whole section, except just kidding, I end up in an all-out war where I show off my sick sniping skills. Upon the Zeppelin, Dirka sees us coming, but then proceeds to miss a pistol shot from 3 feet away, being fully prepared, so that's gotta be quite embarrassing for him. We fight for a while, and the Zeppelin begins exploding because that's all Zeppelins seem to do. I've never seen one of these bad boys last longer than 5 minutes, which is really bad for an aircraft, but 5 minutes is actually a really long time for other things. Dirka eventually slips through our grasp by parachuting out of the Zeppelin, and it's never actually explained how Sean escapes. We just wash up on a beach and aren't supposed to question it. I really regret not playing this game earlier. This is actually so good. If you want to see more, let me know in the comment section down below. Leave a like, subscribe, all of that jazz, and a big thank you as always to those of you who have clicked the join button and become a member of the channel. It really does mean a lot. I appreciate your support. Thank you so much everyone for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye. A big shout out to my motherload Voiy Bois and above, Björn Van Den Hatter, TheGamerTeg, and ZYFin. Thank you guys for your support. Once again, a big thank you to Hero Wars for sponsoring this video. Be sure to check out the link in the description.